Okay, welcome everyone. As we are sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim and Abba Esther Bas Yona, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKain, L'Refuah Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, by A.B. Spry. We're sponsored by Mark Frankel for his father Yisrael Tzvi Ben Chaim Yeshua Falek, by Berish Gesseman, L'Refuah Shalema for Shoshana Bas Adina Chana. We're sponsored for the physical, emotional, and spiritual protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel Ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We learn Itli Nishmas, Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, for a great shidduch for Chayet Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. And we also learn the Refuah Shalema for Moshe Aryeh Ben Miriam, should have a Refuah Shalema B'Seich She'achel Yisrael. We welcome in Marshall, who is dressed like a clown, and Danny Vogel, who comes in as our 30th Zoomer of the evening, which is very nice. We're holding by Gufa, which is 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Lamed Daled Lamed Beis. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. Remember Pesach when it was very busy, and they were passing the blood assembly line to the altar. Thousands of karbanos. So afterwards, they had the azara plugged so that the blood did not flow into the amma. So kais echad ayimamale medama taruvas. 1 cup they filled up with the blood that was on the floor, and they applied it against the side of the mizbeach. Shem yeshafech echad mehem, that if one of them spilled, nimsa shu machshirai, that throwing would render the carbon kosher. Amar Leila Rabbi Yehuda. Now they thought that maybe the blood spilled from the neck of the animal. Now if the blood spills from the neck of the animal, it's disqualified. So Amar Leila Rabbi Yehuda v'aloi niskabel b'keli. Says the Gemara, well, mino yadei. How do you know it wasn't caught in the keli? Elashem aloi niskabel b'keli. Maybe there was blood that wasn't caught in the keli. Amar lahen. So he said to them, "You're right. I'm not talking about that blood. Afan loyamarti elish kinishes niskabel b'keli." Blood that was caught in a keli, but when they were passing it in the commotion, it might have spilled. Says the Gemara, "V'hu gufa mino yadei." How could he know? Why isn't he afraid that blood spilled from the neck? So the Gemara says, no, blood spilling from the neck, he's not worried about, because Kohanim's reason. The Kohanim are careful. However, after they catch the blood of Dehai, they did it quickly, umishtafchen, and it might have spilled, and therefore we want to scoop it up so that you get a little bit, says the Gemara. But wait a second. With all those karbanos, a lot of the blood that drains afterwards, which is not lifeblood, is mixed in. And it would cancel out any usable blood. It would neutralize, it would nullify usable blood that was on the floor. The draining blood, most of the blood on the floor is the blood that drains after they catch, which is not lifeblood. And therefore it would neutralize any important blood that might have been there. Says the Gemara, well, Rabbi Yehuda the Tameh, Rabbi Yehuda goes according to his reasoning, that draining blood is considered blood, even though it's not lifeblood. The Tanya dama tamtzis ba'asara, blood that drains out later if one drinks it. Somebody like Marshall, who drinks it while he's watching hockey. He, after all, is dressed in blood, perfect for the part. is a lav. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer b'karis. Rabbi Yehuda says it's karis. You see, the draining blood, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is considered taka like regular blood. Says the Gemara, no. That's only vis-a-vis drinking it. Vam Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yehuda Linian kapara, that when it comes to an atonement for a carbon, she'ena miskaper, it's not mechaper. Shenemar, dam shan ki adam hu nefesh, blood is the soul. And we learn out from the fact that it says blood is the soul, that only dam shan nefesh yotzeba, only lifeblood is called koridam. She'ena nefesh yotzeba, ain't a koridam. And therefore, since the draining blood is not good for carbon, shouldn't it neutralize any blood that's spilled from the keli? Says no, that's no problem according to Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda's famous sheet in Shas is min b'minoi loy batel. Something in its own type is not neutralized. So even if the majority of the blood is blood that is not blood for kapara, it's blood of the draining, but still the other blood that might have spilled from a keli is not neutralized, because it's going, El Rabbi Yehuda l'tamei damer ain't dam mevatel dam, because he holds min b'minoi loy batel. Amalem Rabbi Yehuda says to the Rabbanan, you're giving me an argument. The fact of the matter is we know that they plugged up the azara, that the blood shouldn't drain out. So according to me, they plugged it up for this reason, to be able to scoop up the blood and give this precautionary sprinkling on the Mizbeach from the remnants. But l'divreichem, according to you, lama poikikin azara, why did they plug up the azara? Amru lai, so they said to Rabbi Yehuda, shvachu lebnei Aaron. It's a praise of the Bnei Aaron. It shows how much they relish the avodah sheyahalchu ad arkavosayim b'dam, that they should wade up to their knees in blood. They waded up to their knees in blood. This causes all kinds of problems. First of all, it's going to besmirch their white bigdei kahuna, and if the bigdei kahuna are besmirched, that's like Herschel's Rejevolka. If it has a spot on it, forget about it. Says, so first of all, we know that they had to walk. The ritzpah was a clay sharis. They had to walk barefoot. How could they walk on blood? It would be a chatzitza. V'adam avi chatzitza. Says the Gemara, that's not a problem because lachu, it's moist. It's not in interposition. Ditnan hadam, blood, vadyoy, ink, vadvash, honey, vacholav, and milk. Yeveshin chaytzitzin. When it's dry, it interposes. Lachen, but when it's moist, ain't chaytzitzin. Says the Gemara, but wait a second, but let's get back to Herschel's Rejevolka. But it becomes, their white begun become besmirched with blood, and then it's not usable. Their kalim become besmirched with blood. If their garments were smeared, and they did the avodas puzzle. They pick up their garments until their knees, so that the garments don't get bloody. Fitting linen, which means kamidasai, it has to fit perfectly. It shouldn't be less, it shouldn't be more. Says the Gemara, you're right. But they waded in the blood only when they carried the limbs to the ramp. It's when they carried the limbs to the ramp, the lav avodah. Says the Gemara, wait a second. Carrying the limbs to the ramp is not an avodah. V'lai. V'tanya v'hikri v'akayin es hakol ha-mizbeach. The kayin brings everything to the mizbeach. Zuay lachas eivarim lekevesh. That's bringing the limbs to the ramp. So you see, it is an avodah. Ela by lachas eitzim l'maracha. When did they wade in the blood and pick up their garment? That's when they carried the logs to the pyre. The lav avodah. So the Gemara says, yeah, that's fine. But once they're full of blood all over the place, then how did they do the rest of the avodah? The rest of the avodah, they can't do it because they would besmirch. And if they pick up the garment, it's no good because it's not midai bad. Says Gemara, la'avoida heicha ozlei. How would they do the rest of the avoida? Oh, ozlei itztebei. They had stones, and they walked on the stones to do the rest of the avoida, so that they didn't get in the blood. And Rashi says the stones were the same material as the ritzpah, as the floor, and therefore they don't serve as a chatzitza. So the only time they waded in the blood to show how much they loved the avodah was when they brought the wood on the pyre. The rest of the time they walked on these stones so that they shouldn't get their garments dirty, and the stones are not a chatzitza because it's an extension of the ritzpah. Okay. What?
Rabbi Weiss?
Yes.
Wasn't the whole idea of the blood being on the floor that they should...
By the way, how do I know that this is Gedalia?
Yeah, my computer doesn't have a picture.
Spectrographic voice.
But my question is, the whole reason for having the blood on the floor was to show the chashivas. And they're stepping over the blood by putting stones on it. So
You're not listening to my answer.
Okay.
I answered that. I said the chashivas was only during the bringing of the wood to the pyre. That was the only time they showed the chashivas. Now, although I'm still not convinced it's the real Gedalia, but okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvarav.
Amen. It sounds like him.
That's Gedalia Gumba.
By the way, I'm just kidding. It is the one and only Gedalia.
I wasn't kidding.
Then we... Okay, listen to this guy. He really is a character. You know, Marshall, if you were really serious, you could bring a Gemara and make a Kiddush Hashem.
That's too much.
Ma'yomru Hagoyim. Yeah. Okay, we welcome in Shimon Klein, we welcome in Ben Zion Cohn, we welcome in A.B. Spry, we welcome in Dr. Guy, we welcome in Barry Cement and Eddie Chazan, Yisrael Fisher, Yaakov Warman, Ruvain Pollack, Shalom Fogel, Mark Frankel, Shelley Zeitlin, who is having a little procedure tomorrow. Shelley, give us your name.
Shimon ben Sarah Miriam.
Shimon ben Sarah Miriam should have a refuah shalem and b'sech shachar Yisrael. Dalia Engel, Nachman Chapler, Yitzi Fuchs, Saba, Rabbi Kniel, Rabbi Katz. Itchy, good to have Itchy. Michal, Barry Cement, Marshall Castle, Moshe Lehman, Stephen Holtzman, Abe Arbach, Menachem Yamansky, Naftali Jablin, Irving Fishbaum, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, Rebellia Yaffe, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Danny Vogel. Here in the shul we have Berish Gesserman, we have Chaim Kramer, we have Michal Avram Chavin, Herschel Wardler, and Ruvain Shannon. Remember, tomorrow night, the first night of our 7:45 Mariv, and we do have an oval relying on us. Rabbi Hyman is going to be davening with us, so make sure to come tomorrow night promptly at 7:45 so we could get the daf going exactly on time. Mark, by the way, we missed you the entire shir last night. Every minute I was saying to the Olam, took a lot of time. I was saying, Mark is coming. Maybe he's going to walk in the door over here. In Gedalia, I also want to tell you that I already schmoozed with Shelley Zeitlin about making up a list of ideas. Gedalia might be doing a little work for me on projects, so we were putting together a list of ideas in the area of Harbatzas Torah, etc. And anybody that wants to be part of that think tank can offer to get involved. Barish, I'm going to take you up on some of your ideas as well. And anybody else who has any innovative ideas should let me know. we
Also, if I can give another name, Shimon ben Miriam.
Shimon ben Miriam should have a refuah shalema b'sek shachar Yisrael. We're at the new Mishnah on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. New Mishnah on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph. Hashoichet es hazevach. If let's say Eddie, who's sitting pretty, and when Eddie's sitting pretty, you have to worry. Hashoichet, but we know that he had nothing to do with the Louvre because he's nowhere near France. He didn't. I could tell you, he is here in America.
He's in the Lou right now.
Anyway, Hashoichet es hazevach lechol davar shein darkei lechol. If let's say Eddie shechts a carbon with a machshav of chutz l'zmanai of chutz l'mekaymai to eat the kidneys or the lobe of the liver, which is not eaten but rather is smoked up on the mizbeach, or lahakter davar shein darkei lahakter, or to smoke up the meat which is normally not smoking up, kosher, because you can't have a machshava of something that is eaten to smoke up or something that's smoked up to be eaten. Rebbe Eliezer Paisel. Rebbe Eliezer is machmir, and he holds chashvin me'achilas adam la'avodas ha'mizbeach me'avodas mizbeach la'achilas adam. If he has in mind lechol davar shedarka lechol to eat chutz l'zmanai or chutz l'mekaymai, something that's normally eaten like basar, ulahakter davar shedarka lahakter, smoke up something that's normally smoked up, but only pachas mikazayis, less than a kazayis, that doesn't count, and therefore kosher because he has in mind less than a kazayis. And then we also learned this before several times. Lechol kechatzi zayis or lahakter kechatzi zayis. Eddie has in mind to eat a half a kazayis of basar and smoke up after its man a half a kazayis of kidney, kosher, because we said that achilas mizbeach and achilas adam cannot combine. She'ein achila v'aktarim mitzdarfim, the eating of the person and the consumption of the mizbeach does not combine. Now, hashoichet es hazevach, if Eddie shechts, and only Eddie could think of this, maybe Marshall and Barry or Mark could do so too, but Eddie is an original thinker. Hashoichet es hazevach lechol kizayis min ha'or, to eat a kizayis of the hide. And this is all talking about chutz l'zmanai, or chutz l'mekaymai, or min ha'roitev, or from the gravy, or min ha'kipa, or from the sediment. Now, the sediment is a big chiddush, because the sediment is edible. And he had in mind the kizayis of the sediment. However, it doesn't count, and listen carefully why. Because by karbanis it says l'mashcha. You have to eat it like royalty. You have to eat what they would eat at a tish, royalty. And they don't serve up a kizayis of sediment. And therefore that doesn't count. Or mina olil, or from the ligaments of the neck. Or mina atzamas, or from the bone. Or mina gidin, or from the hard sinews. Or mina karnayim, or from the horns. Or mina tlofim, or from the hooves. Even though he had a kavanah of chutz l'zmanai v'chutz l'mekaymai, since these items are also considered non-edibles, kosher. Not only, what?
They wouldn't put the sediment like soup? They wouldn't put it like soup?
No, sediment is not eaten alone at kazayis. No. V'ein chayovin aleyen, and if, let's say Eddie had in mind to eat the carbon chutz l'zmanai, so that if you eat a kazayis of flesh, you would get karis, but if you ate a kazayis of ligaments, you ate a kazayis of or even a kazayis of sediment, you're not chayiv mishum pigel, you wouldn't get karis for a pigel, and if it was left over its expiration time, v'noiser, you would not get karis for noiser, and if you had tumas haguf and you ate these things, you're not chayiv karis for tameh. Now, here we get interesting. Let's say Eddie has a female carbon, like a chatas, which is a female, or shlamim could be a female. And the female has a fetus and a afterbirth. Hashoichet es hamukdashim. If he shechts the shlomim, the female shlomim, with a machshava lechol shliloi shilya b'chutz, to eat the shlil or shilya outside, or as Taisus adds, or if he has in mind to eat it after its time, loy pigel, it's not pigel. Because again, it's not considered lamashcha to eat the fetus or to eat the afterbirth. Similarly, hamoylek es hatoirin. If Eddie, who's very busy tonight, don't let that smooth look on his face fool you. Hamoylek es hatoirin. By the way, you have to know, anybody that wears a black shirt is suspect. Because why do you think? You have to see him wearing a black shirt. Why do you think a person wears a black shirt? Because they want to blend in the darkness, So, Eddie, Marshall with a face like that, you're not blending in whatever you wear. Now,
Black is beautiful. Wait a second. There are 17,000 people sitting with me. Do I get the bourbon yet?
you could share it with all 17,000. Now, yeah, 17,000.
I always thought black is beautiful. I don't understand. Eddie, you're great. Yes, Barry, you are beautiful.
That just shows.
There, Marshall.
Okay, now, hamoylek es hatoiron. If you do malika, remember malika is like shchita for a bird. It's one of the avodas hadam where you could have a machshava of pigel. So hamoylek es hatoiron. If Eddie does malika on a turtle dove, lechol beyeyen bechutz, with a machshava to eat its eggs outside or after its time, loy pigel, because the eggs are considered separate from the bird. Now, chalav mukdashin, the milk of a female, ubei tyran, or the eggs of a turtle dove. Let's say Eddie did the malika with a machshav of chutz lizmana, or he did the shchita of the female with a machshav of chutz lizmana. Ein chayavin alein, the milk and the eggs are not considered part of the animal and part of the bird, and therefore you wouldn't be chayiv pigel, chorus, and nicer if it's left out after its time, you wouldn't be chayiv chorus for eating it after the expiration date, or tamei, if you ate it b'tumas haguf, you drank the milk and you ate the eggs b'tumas haguf, you wouldn't get chorus. Now, a lot of information now, a lot of information to process over here. You see, Mark, you don't see it, but he's jotting it down feverishly. Mark, you have a bookshelf there, loads of notebooks of information. Mark wants to know why I'm picking on him so much. Mark, if you move to Fairways, I won't pick on you so much. Now,
I'm working on it.
yeah,
I'm working on it.
yeah. Talk. There's a beautiful house I hear on Round Valley. Beautiful house on Round Valley, but it's very expensive. Wow.
Rabbi, they won't take me. I have children under 18.
Well, when it's nagay, you let me know and I'll work it out. I have clout. I have clout. Now the Gemara, it sounds a little complicated, but it's not. It just sounds that way. Don't let the way it sounds fool you. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Pigel bezevach. Let's say Eddie shechts a female shlomim with a machshav of chutz lizmanai, so it becomes pigel. Nispagel ashlil. Well, the fetus also, if you eat it, you chayiv kares. But bishlil, if he has in mind to eat the fetus after its time, remember that's not considered l'mashcha, that's not considered proper eating, then lo nispagal hazevach, the carbon doesn't become pigel. Similarly, now in the case of a bird, the ligaments are edible. The elul is edible. So pigel be'elul, if you have in mind, Eddie has in mind to eat the ligaments of the bird after its time, nispagla morah, the crop becomes forbidden. If you eat the crop, you chayiv kares. But the moirah is already, the crop is not really royalty, it's not mamashka. So if Eddie has in mind to eat the crop after its time, then loy nispagal elo, then the ligaments don't become kares, because his thought of pigel was not on something that was really fit to be eaten.
What about the rest of it? The rest of it is pigel?
No, nothing is. It just.
I wonder why pig.
It just what? Don't you see the symmetry, Rabbi Katz?
No.
You don't see the symmetry?
The symmetry, yes, but.
So that's why it's saying einachanami, nothing else. It means even the elul is not. Now, pigel be'emurin. Now here, we move into a different subject. We move into the parim anisrafim. The parim anisrafim are bulls, like we learned in Hurrius, the par elam davar shel tzibur, where Bezdin makes an erroneous decision and the majority of Klal Yisrael sinned. So they have to bring a par. This par was very unique in many ways. Its kidneys, its lobe of the liver, its fats are smoked up on the mizbeach. Its blood is brought into the heichel, and the rest of the animal is burnt by the Mokayim Adeshen outside of Yerushalayim. So here it's an interesting thing that the meat is not eaten. But yet Rebbe Eliezer really says a chiddush over here. Pigel be'emurin. If he has in mind that he's going to smoke up the kidneys, the lobe of the liver, the fats, after its time, nispaglu porin, the bulls become pigel, even though the bulls are not meant to be eaten. The bulls are meant to be burnt. But he's mechadish that still the flesh of the bulls become pigel. But parim, but if he has in mind to burn the bulls after its time, the sacrificial portions don't become pigel, because burning the bull is not an avodah. It's not an avodah like the shchita or the kabbalah or halacha or zrika or malika or kmitza. So you can't do pigel with the burning. Now, the big chiddush over here is he's saying that if you have in mind to smoke up the sacrificial portions after its time, then the meat of the bull becomes pigel, even though the meat of the bull is not meant to be eaten. The meat of the bull is meant to be burnt. So, let's bring a proof. V'shavim she'im chishev ba'achilas parim u'b'sreifasan loy asav loy klum. That if he thought to eat the meat of the parim after its time, or to burn it after its time, it's nothing. Eating is nothing because you're not supposed to eat it, you're supposed to burn it. Burning is nothing because that's not an avodah. It's not an avodah like shchita or zrika. But my love, it's only that's not pigel. Hachishiv be'emurim, but if you think to smoke up the portions after its time, then nispaglu parim, then the meat of the par does become pigel, which would be Rebbe Eliezer's chiddush. So the Gemara says it's not a good proof. Lie. A lot of information here. Lie. The diak is Hachishev be'emurim. If Eddie has a machshava on the emurim to smoke them up after their time, the emurim become pigum. Not the parim become, not the basar. Nispaglu emurim atzman, but not the basar. The basar doesn't become pigum because the basar is not meant to be eaten. The basar is meant to be burnt. Tajma, 2 lines from the top.
It's Hishev Le'achol. It's not Lahaktir.
No, Hishev Lahaktir. You don't eat the sacrificial portions.
So then it's just because it's Lamachar.
If you have in mind to smoke it up instead of today, you have in mind to smoke it up tomorrow after it's time, then the emurim themselves become pure. Now, Tajma. Paraman Nisrafim, the bulls that are to be burnt, Usi'iraman Nisrafim, and the goats that are burnt. That refers to the Sarah of Avodah Zarah. Moyelon Baham, there's Me'ilah, it's this trespass, Mishahuklishu. As soon as they're sanctified and they get Kedushas Aguf, if Michal Avram benefits from them, a Shava Pruta, he commits Me'ilah. Has to bring an Asher Me'ilas, etc. Nishchetu, once they're slaughtered, because remember they have to be slaughtered, and their sacrificial portions have to be offered on the Mizbeach, and their blood has to be sprinkled in the Kaidah against the Paraichas on the Mizbeach Hazav before we burn the flesh. Nishchetu, now once they're slaughtered, at that moment, they are fit to be eaten. So then, Hukshiru, they are considered ready. I am middle of giving a share.
Oh, when can you call me back, or when should I call you?
What do you need?
I wanted to have your email and also a small bio, and I want to email you a flyer that
I got the flyer already.
Oh, good.
And you could find plenty of bios of me online. You could look at my YouTube thing and you could find a bio.
I don't have YouTube.
Okay, I'll try to send you something.
Okay, and could I also have your email?
rmmwsi@aol.com. wsi@aol.com.
Okay, thank you.
I'm giving a shir in Enclave this Tuesday at 11 o'clock. I'm in the clubhouse. I'm not sure if it's only for women. I'm not sure.
What are you speaking on?
I'm speaking about what we can take away from Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot.
Rabbi, I might have a bio, so I'll take a look.
If we hide our beards, can we sneak in?
Yeah, you could come. I don't care. I don't care who comes.
I mean, yeah, but you may not. I mean, that would be an interesting idea. That's very important to discuss.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to figure out what to say.
Thoughts on the
If anybody has any ideas, Herschel, you'll let me know.
Take away from the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
credit card bills.
Right.
Bring the poster out the top.
That's what it's all about. It's a fundamental aspect of it.
Yeah, Herschel wants me to take his bills with him. Okay.
Take them away.
Yeah. Anyway, so Nishchetu, I'm sorry that I interrupted with that, but I know that she's nervous because she's the one that's setting up the shir, so I didn't want her to have agita. That's why I picked it up. So Nishchatu, 3 lines from the top of Lamed Hamid Beis, Nishchatu, if the carbon was slaughtered, so hukshiru, it becomes ready. Now this is even though it wasn't moistened yet, because we have a concept, chibas hakodesh machsharton, the importance of kachim makes it right away susceptible. Li pasel, to become pasel, even betful yain, even one who touched the sheretz, went to the mikveh but didn't have nightfall, or b'mechusik kippurim, or even one who Zav, who counted his 7 days and was in his 8th day, but didn't bring his carbon yet. Ubelina, and also if it's left overnight. Now wait a second. My lav linas basar. Doesn't that mean that even if the meat was left overnight, it's usher with chorus, even though it's meant to be burnt? Vishmamina, and we see that migu de pasel belina, even just like it could be pasel if left overnight while it's still basar, pasel b'machshava. It's also pasel if Eddie has in mind about the meat. If Eddie has in mind about the emurim, that the meat becomes also with cars because of pigel. Says the Gemara, lie. It's not talking about if the meat is left overnight. The meat, since it's not meant to be eaten, it's meant to be burnt. There's no lina on the meat. Loi lina say murim. Says him, well, wait a second. That the meat, there's mila al beis hadeshin, even when the meat is sitting by the pyre where it's supposed to be burnt, there's still mila if Herschel benefits from it, until the meat gets charred. And since the Sefer is talking about meat, then isn't the ratio also talking about the meat and not about just the emurim? Michlal the ratio linas basar, it's a lina of the basar, and then that would also be a raya to Rabbi Eliezer that if Eddie has a machshav of pigel to smoke up the sacrificial portions the next day, the meat would also be also with karis. Says, well, no, Midayir, who says? Hakadisa, Vakadisa. Reish is only talking about emurim. There's lina on the sacrificial portions. The Sefer, when it's talking about Mila, that's talking about basar. Okay.
There's no Meila on the Emurim?
Is there Meila on the emurim before they're smoked up?
It seems like from this Gemara there's no Meila at this point.
No, it doesn't seem that way. It's making a point that the basar is Meila even when it's on the pyre.
Huh.
The emurim don't exist anymore. Now,
I think they make sure that all the meat was all burned up. They would never left anything over.
correct. We're talking about if you benefited from it before it was burnt up.
How much benefit? Did we eat it?
Not eat it. Herschel was, rubbing his face in it and getting off his whiskers. However, he benefits from it. Now, leave it to Herschel. He's a very thrifty guy, Herschel. Says the Gemara, Moisiv Rabba now asks, Ve'elu she'ein mefaglin ve'ein mispaglin. The following do not make pigel, nor do they become forbidden as pigel. Now that means that they don't make pigel if you have in mind on them to do something with them after its time. And a mispagla means that if you did have a machshava of pigel on the proper thing, these items are not forbidden as with chorus as pigel, because they're not edible. Semer shibaroshe kvasim, the wool on the heads of the lamb, useir shibazakein tiyashim, the hair on the beards of the goats, va'ar and the hide, va'roitiv and gravy, va'kipa and sediment, va'elel and the ligaments in the neck, va'amura and the crop, v'atzamais, and the bones, v'aginin and sinews, v'karnaim horns, v'atlofim and hooves, v'ashlil and the fetus, v'ashilya, the afterbirth, v'chelav v'amukdashim and the eggs of kachim, ubei toirin, and the the milk of the kachim, ubei toirin, and the eggs of the turtle dove. Kulan, all of them, loy mefaglin, they're not pigel, v'loy mispaglin, and they're not forbidden to be eaten as pigel. Now this is going to cause us a big problem, because we learned that although if you have a machshava to eat the shlil, or the morah after its time, doesn't make pigel, because those things are not lemashcha, they're not royalty. But if you have in mind to eat proper things after its time, we said that the shlil and the morah are forbidden as pigel. So this is in direct contradiction. And ein chayavan aleim mishum pigel nice v'tamei v'amala behen b'chutz. And if you offer them outside, potter. So the Gemara says, my lav, loy mefaglin hazevach, that it doesn't make the zevach pigel, v'loy mispaglin machma zevach, nor does it become forbidden as pigel because of the zevach. Now this is a contradiction to what we said earlier, because Rebbe Eliezer said that if we offer the animal or the bird as legitimate pigel, then we said that it does cover also and make the fetus and the crop forbidden. So the Gemara says, Rebbe Eliezer will learn it as follows: Loi mefaglin es hazevach. On these items, you can't make the carbon pigel. V'loi mispaglin machmas atzman. Oh, if you have in mind to eat the shlil after its time, the shlil doesn't become forbidden. Not only does the rest of the animal not become forbidden, the shlil doesn't become forbidden. If you have in mind to eat the morah after the time, the crop after its time, the crop doesn't become forbidden.
What's the crop?
Ihachi, it's a part of the bird.
Is it top part? What part?
It's part of the digestive system. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, hadik tani seifa, kulan loy mefaglin v'loy mispaglin. Why does it repeat that? Hasu lamali. So the Gemara says, is that the only repetition? What do you have to tell me you're not chayiv of pigel? We already said that. So therefore it includes it with it pigel. That's called ashkirta delishna. Since normally all over Shas we say pigel nice of a tame, here it says pigel also, even though we already said that there's no pigel. Hachanami, I need the boy lemisnei, since it wants to say hamalim behem b'chutz. If we bring them outside, it's potter. Tani nami kulan loy mefaglin v'loy mispaglin. It repeats loy mefaglin v'loy mispaglin, even though it's not necessary to say it. We already said it.
When it says lo mefaglin, it means you can't do it. You can't actually do pigel on those items.
Right.
So what does mean lo mispaglin?
Lo mispaglin means that if you had it in mind about the shalal, even the shalal doesn't become pigel.
Well, that's lo mispaglin. You have in mind to do the shlil, right?
No. Lo mispaglin means that if you have in mind if you have in mind the shlil, the rest of the carbon doesn't become forbidden. And loy mispaglin means that even the shalal doesn't become forbidden. Now, Rava Amar, Rava says, a lot of details here. Just remember, for every line, we get eternity. If we really chapped it, then coming to a shir would be such a no-brainer. If we would be able to see, if we would have the foresight to see what we get from our learning, it would be such a no-brainer. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have this. This is what it means that Choshech Zeh Yavan. Yavan is the beauty of Olympic Greece. The shine and the glow of this world is a darkness that cloaks us from realizing what's really shining. You know, I know that everybody is now thinking of Hanukkah. I know that. I know because once I'm sure Herschel is polishing his menorah already. A Hasidic Yid like Herschel, he's out polishing his menorah. You know, our thoughts are on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, we have those little tiny lights. While there's a tree in Rockefeller Center, and there's the millions of watts of glow of Olympic competition, it's our little small lights of Hanukkah, of Kiner Mitzvah V'Torah Or. That's the true light of the world. This is where it's at. This is where it's at.
This is an easy pass into Gan Eden.
100%. It's not just a pass. It's a VIP status. Ashrei Misha Ba Lekan V'Talmudai Biyadai. I always envision in my mind, I've seen it, you go into an airport and all of a sudden a important person comes in and two airport personnel come in and whisk them straight through TSA, straight through the gate, straight on to first class. Diplomatic pouch. You want to have a diplomatic pouch? That's the Gemara. I remember Shlomo Kalbach had a song. Probably Herschel knows it. The Munkacher passport. The Munkacher passport. He said, Daf Aleph in the Gemara. That's the Munkacher passport. You know, that's.
Just say you have the Munkacher passport.
Yeah.
Just do a little bit of learning Torah and get writing.
Now, so Rava Amar, Rava says, Afana nami tanina, we learned, Hashoicher es hamukdoshin, if you shecht kochim, lechol shlil oy shilya bachutz, to eat the fetus or the placenta, the afterbirth, outside, like pigel, right? Because it's not lamashcha to eat those things. V'amoylech es atayrim, lechol beyayem b'chutz, if you do malika on the turtle dove, to eat the eggs on the outside. The eggs is separate. Like pigel. V'ader tani, chaylev ha'mukdashin ubeyei tayrin, the eggs of kachim, the milk of kachim, and the eggs of tayrin, ein chayavan aleim mishum pigel na'is v'tami. You're not chayav on them for pigel. But it doesn't say the shlil and the shilya. Hashlil shilya chayavim. Elalav shmamina kan machmas hazevach. Here it's talking about when he had in mind to do the carbon. Chutzos manai, then the shlil and the shilya become forbidden. Kan machmas atzman. If he had in mind to do the shlil and the shilya, chutzos manan, then they themselves do not become forbidden. Shmamina, that's a good proof.
What about the rest of them? They don't become usher?
The rest for sure doesn't become usher.
No, I'm saying if he has in mind the carbon.
If he has in mind the carbon, the shlil and the shilya, becomes forbidden.
What about the Bei Torah?
No, they don't become forbidden.
They never be. Okay.
No. Now, because they're separate from the animal. Tanan Hasan, Ubale Mumin. Now, there are exceptions. A lot of times we say Zois Torah Sa'oila, that Torah Achas, whatever goes on the Mizbeach, im Allah loy terid. It shouldn't be taken down. However, but Ubale Mumin, a blemished animal, if it's taken on the Mizbeach, it is taken down. Rabbi Akiva machshir b'balei mumen. Rabbi Akiva permits certain blemished animals to stay on the Mizbeach. But it's only with two conditions. Rabbi Akiva, if the mum is a cataract in the eye, because that's kosher by a bird. And since it's kosher by a bird, even an animal that has it, if it went up, you don't take it down. That's the first condition. The second condition is, that's if you were makdish it before it got its mum. But if it had its mum before the hektish, then even if it's the cataract of the eye, you have to take it down. So asks the Gemara,